Yom HaMiyuchas Sameach. Today is the second day of Chodesh Sivan, and we are, Be'ezras Hashem, continuing up to date with Maseches Yoma Daf Yud Aleph Amud Beis. We got a few lines down in Yud Aleph Amud Beis, and we are continuing now with the Gemara that begins. First one on the line is Tiyufta. That was our conclusion yesterday, that Rav Yehuda was refuted, and now the Gemara tells the following halacha. Tani Rav Shmuel Bar Yehuda Kamedi Rava. Rav Shmuel Bar Yehuda said taught this halacha in front of Rava. Shisha Sharim P'turim Min Mezuzah. There are 6 gateways that are patur from a mezuzah, meaning 6 gates into spaces or of definition, and we will see what those things are. They are Beis HaTeven, a straw house, place that you saw straw, Beis HaBakar, and a cattle barn, Ubeis HaEitzim, and a woodshed, Uveis HaOtzus, and a storehouse, Vishar Hamadi, and a Median gate. That is a specific kind of gate, and we're going to define what that is in a bit. Vishar She'en Mekora, and a gate that does not have a ceiling. Vishar She'en Gavoya Yud, and a gate that is not higher than, not 10 tvachim high. Amalei, so Rava says back to Rav Shmuel Bar Yehuda, hold on a second, you miscounted it. Amarle, padachta b'shisha v'silakta b'shiva. You started saying that there are 6, and then you ended up with 7. Your count has 7 things that are part of Ramazuzah. Amarle, so he says to him, Shar Hamadi Tanaihi. The Shar Hamadi that I listed is actually a machlokes Tanai. It's not necessarily part of this list. It might be a list of 6 or 7 for anybody that has a middle schooler in their life, 6 or 7. The Tanya. Says the Brisa as follows. Kippah, with regards to kippah, meaning an archway, an arch doorway, Reb Meir says it's chayav mezuzah, but Chachamim patrim, and the Chachamim say it is exempt from mezuzah. But Shavin, and everybody agrees, she'im yesh ba biragla asara, if its feet have 10 tvachim, shechayevas b'mezuzah, it is chayav mezuzah. So what are we talking about here? If you look at an archway, so there are 2 parts of the archway. There is the curved part, and then there is the not curved part. The not curved part are the doorposts. So if you have 2 parallel vertical doorposts that are 10 tvachim high and a kippah, a domed archway, as the lintel, as the top of it, that is not a machlokes. Everybody agrees that, meaning assuming that it's going to a place that's chayv in mezuzah, that doorway is chayv in a mezuzah. Where exactly is the machlokes? So this is now going to be the Gemara's next discussion. Amar Abaye, says Abaye, D'chule Alma, everybody agrees, Yud, Gva Yud, if it is 10 tvachim high, Ve'ein Baragla Gimel, but it doesn't have vertical doorposts that are 3 tvachim high. In that case, V'lav Klumhi, then it's a nothing. It's a nothing with a nothing. Meaning, if you have basically vertical doorposts that are a tefach off the ground and a dome that is 10 tefachim across, meaning that a dome that makes it 10 tefachim high. So in such a situation, that everybody agrees that is not called a doorway if it doesn't have vertical posts that are more than 3 tefachim high. Inami, alternatively, yesh beragla gimel, if it does have 3 tvachim worth of vertical doorposts, ve'in gva yud, but it is not 10 tvachim high in total, meaning it's 9 tvachim high, v'lav klumi, then it's a nothing. So you need to have 2 conditions here: 3 tvachim high and 3 tvachim vertical posts, and the total has to be 10 tvachim high. Lo nechleku ela b'gva yud. Where is the machlokes between Reb Meir and the Chachamim? If it is in fact 10 tvachim high, v'yesh baragla gimel, and it has 3 tvachim worth of vertical height in the doorposts, ve'ein berachva dalet, but it is not 4 tvachim wide. It's not 4 tvachim wide, meaning you have something that fits all the requirements height-wise of a doorway, which is 3 tvachim of vertical perpendicular to the ground doorposts, and 10 tvachim total height, but the width of it is less than 4 tvachim wide, which means that it's not a wide enough doorway for normative usage. That's not a normal doorway. However, but it is built into a wall where there is enough material on either side of the door, or at least on one side of the doorway, to be able to carve out the space to make it wide enough, at the base at least, to make it wide enough between the two vertical doorposts to make it 4 tfachim wide. If you can make it 4 tfachim wide by carving it out, that's good. Now, if you cannot, meaning that's where the machlokes is. Obviously, if there isn't enough material on either side, like for example, you have like a tiny little archway, and then there's like fence poles, and there's no way to carve it out without destroying the whole thing. So then there's nothing to talk about. But in a situation where you have a hole that could be made larger to be 3 tfachim of vertical height in the doorpost, 10 tfachim vertical height in the total area, including the archway, and you can carve it out to make it big enough. The Rabbanan hold it is fundamentally chayv mezuzah because it's going to be completed to be wide enough. Tan Rabbanan, the Rabbanan taught in a brisa, Beis HaKnesses of Beis HaIsha, Beis HaShutvin chayv mezuzah. 3 places that, and we'll see why you wouldn't have thought that they're chayv mezuzah, but 3 places that are chayv mezuzah. They are a Beis HaIsha, a woman's house, Beis HaShutvin, and a house that is owned in partnership, and a Beis HaKnesses. That was the first one, and a shul. Those 3 things require a mezuzah. Pshita says the Gemara. Hold on a second. That's obvious. What would you have said? Because the pasuk says, "Uchsavtam al mezuzos beisecha uvisharecha beisecha v'loy beisa." Your house, your singular in the masculine, v'loy beisa, and not her house. Beisecha v'loy batehem. Beisecha, your house, and not their house in the plural. Kamash malan, that's not true. That a woman's house and a co-owned house both need a mezuzah. Says the Gemara, well, maybe that's a good deal. Maybe you should say, yeah, that's exactly what the Torah is telling you. Markra, the pasuk says, why are you putting up a mezuzah? So that your life should be lengthened, should be increased, and the life of your children. Says the Gemara, what? Men need long lives, individuals need long lives, but women don't, and partners don't. Everybody needs a long life. So, meaning if the point of mezuzah is to increase your life, so everybody needs a long life, the pasuk is talking about everybody. So why does the Torah say bisecha? Kid Rava. That is to teach the halacha of Rava. The Amar Rava says Rava derech bi'ascha. Beisecha has an additional diuk. Beisecha is to tell you where you put up a mezuzah. Derech bi'asecha. It has to be in the way of you walking in. V'chi akar inish. Kare di mina akar beresha. And when people begin walking, they take a right foot first, in general. Meaning it has to be the normative way of a person entering, which means your right-hand side is the place that encounters the doorway first, says Rashi. Derech bi'ascha liyamin bevoy labais v'loy miyamin letzeisai. It has to be in the right-hand side on your way in and not the right-hand side on your way out. Meaning, beisecha derech bi'ascha, the way that you enter, should be on the right-hand side on the way that you enter a house. Tanya Yidach, we have another brisa that teaches similarly. This is brisa Menachos, for those that just finished Menachos in the Daf Yomi. Tanya Yidach, we have another brisa. Beis HaKnesses, with regards to a shul, Beis HaShutvin, and a co-owned house by partners, Beis HaIsha, and a woman's house, Metam B'Nagayim. They become tummy with tzaras. It's possible to get tzaras on these houses, if it is in Eretz Yisrael. Pshita, that is obvious. Ma'odatayim, what would you have said? Uba asher loy habayis. When the pasuk is describing in Parshas Metzora, with regards to the tzaras of Tashrim Metzora, with regards to the tzaras of a bayis, so the pasuk says Uba asher loy habayis, the one who the house belongs to him. Him, that's loy. Loy v'loy la, him and not her. Loy v'loy lakoin, him and not, loy v'loy lahen, him and not them. you would have assumed all of that to be true. Kamash Malon, that is not true. That the word loy here doesn't tell you to the exclusion of women and not to the exclusion of a partnership. Why not? Why would the word loy not come and teach me those things? It seems to be an obvious deal. Says the Gemara Amar Kra, the pasuk tells you, in the land of your inheritance, in Eretz Yisrael, which means everybody, meaning everybody co-inherits the land of Israel. That is true for men and women and partners and everybody. So Elaloi Lamali, why does the Torah say loy? Who does saras happen to? Somebody that makes his house as if it is only for him. Doesn't want to lend out his kelim. Doesn't want to make his house something that is available to other people. He says, when somebody says, do you have a pot that I can borrow? He says, I don't have a pot. Sorry, don't have. It's unavailable. Then when HaKadosh Baruch Hu brings tzaras on this house and he has to empty out the whole house, then HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to display everything that the person has in his house. Which means that uvaloi asher habayis means that that tzaras habayis is not going to happen to somebody that freely lends out their kelim. That is your best way of making sure that you don't get tzaras habayis. Okay, says the Gemara, uveis hakneses mimitam v'nagayim. Hold on a second. Since when does a shul end up with tzaras? That was the additional clause here. Beis hakneses was the first one. Beis hakneses does get tzaras. They are metamim v'nagayim. The Gemara says, hold on a second. Since when does a shul get tzaras? V'atanya, don't we have a brisa that says yachol you be'ati knesios b'ati midrashim metamim v'nagayim? Maybe you would say that a beis knesses, a beis medrash should get tzaras. Talmud Lemon, the pasuk says uva asher loy habayis, that the one who the house belongs to him, mi shemiyuchad loy, house that belongs to him, yotze elu she'ein miyuchadim loy, that excludes things that don't exclusively belong to him. Says the Gemara loy kasha. No, there is a machlokes here. Rabbi Meir v'Harabanan. This is a machlokes between Rabbi Meir and the Rabbanan. The Tanya. The Brisa says as well as Beis HaKnesses sheyesh ba beis dir lechazan HaKnesses. If you have a shul that has a parsonage apartment for the chazan HaKnesses, for the person that is the shamash of the shul, chayv mezuzah. That is going to be chayv mezuzah. V'she'ein ba beis dira, but doesn't have a beis dira, doesn't have an apartment. Remer mechayv v'cham patrim. Remer is going to be mechayv you, and the chum are going to be pater you. Maybe you want to say have a harabanan that both of these are the opinion of the rabbanan v'loy kasha, and there's no problem. Had the is ba beis dira, had the leis ba beis dira. So it just depends on whether or not there is an apartment there. That would be the another way of understanding these two prices. Does it have an apartment? Does it not have an apartment? You could say both of these are talking about a beis knesses that doesn't have an apartment built into it. Turning to Yud Beis Amud Aleph, and it depends on whether you are talking about a small town shul or a big city shul. Because the big city shuls are not able to be metamim v'nagayim, whereas small town shuls are, because they are no different, Rashi says, from shutfin, meaning a small town shul is not the public property, it is only for the people that live in that place. And Be'ez Hashem Yisbarach, we will continue with the challenge on this final point on Yud Beis Amud Aleph tomorrow. Everybody should have a beautiful day, Chodesh Tov u'Mavarech, and beautiful Yom HaMiyuchas, and we will see you then.